The hotel lobby shimmered with golden light, every surface polished to perfection for the evening's charity gala. Crystal chandeliers hung like captured stars above the crowd, and the hum of conversation mixed with the faint clinking of glasses. Evelyn Brooks stood at the reception desk, clipboard in hand, giving last-minute instructions to the catering staff. Her black blazer was already creased from a long day's work, but her posture remained straight, her focus razor-sharp. The event had to go perfectly. After all, this was her biggest job yet, a chance to prove herself to her demanding boss and secure her promotion. She was reviewing the seating chart when a voice cut through the noise, low, urgent, and surprisingly close. "Please, for just 2 minutes, be my wife." Evelyn froze. Slowly, she lifted her head. Standing before her was a man she recognized instantly, though she had only seen him in business magazines and on charity billboards, Liam Carter, the elusive tech millionaire. In person, he looked taller, broader, with dark hair that brushed his collar and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken thoughts. His expression, however, was far from the composed, untouchable image she'd seen in the media. He looked desperate. "I'm sorry," she managed, blinking in disbelief. "Did you just, please," he said again, softer this time but no less intense. "Just for 2 minutes. I'll explain later." Evelyn's eyes darted around. The lobby had quieted just slightly, people were beginning to notice them. Liam's tone carried a strange sincerity that made her heart skip, but the absurdity of the situation struck her just as hard. "I think you've got the wrong person," she whispered, clutching her clipboard like a shield. "I'm not." He reached out, gently touching her arm, his grip firm but not forceful. "I'm begging you, just trust me." Something in his eyes, a flicker of fear, or maybe pain, made her hesitate. And that was all it took. A distinguished elderly couple was walking toward them, escorted by hotel staff. The woman, frail but elegant, leaned on a silver cane. Her eyes lit up when she spotted Liam. Evelyn realized instantly. This was who he was hiding from, or maybe hiding something for. "Liam, darling," the woman called warmly. "Oh, it's been so long." Without missing a beat, Liam slipped an arm around Evelyn's shoulders. His voice shifted, suddenly calm and charming. "Grandmother," he said smoothly, guiding Evelyn forward, "there's someone I'd like you to meet." Evelyn's pulse thundered in her ears. "Grandmother." She nearly stumbled as they approached, but Liam's hand tightened slightly on her shoulder, silent reassurance. "This is my wife," he announced. The word wife landed in the air like a spark. The old woman gasped with delight, clasping her hands together. "Oh, my goodness. So the rumors were true after all." She turned to Evelyn, her faded blue eyes glistening. "You're even lovelier than I imagined, dear. How did you two meet?" Evelyn's mouth went dry. Her throat refused to work. "Say something," her brain screamed. "Anything." Liam jumped in, smiling faintly. "At a coffee shop. She spilled her drink on me, and I couldn't be angry, not when she smiled like that." The grandmother chuckled softly. Evelyn forced a laugh, nodding along, though her palms were slick with sweat. Liam's hand stayed at her waist, grounding her, but she could feel his tension, every muscle taut beneath his calm exterior. The old man beside the grandmother, quiet until now, gave Liam a curt nod. "So you finally settled down, huh?" he said, his voice gravelly. "About time you stopped running from responsibility." Liam's smile wavered. Evelyn caught a glimpse of something raw in his eyes, regret, maybe, or guilt. But, before she could dwell on it, the grandmother's gentle voice pulled her back. "Well, my dear," she said to Evelyn, "I hope you keep him in line. He always was a stubborn boy." Evelyn managed a small, polite smile. "I'll do my best, ma'am." When the couple was led toward the banquet hall by an attendant, Liam finally exhaled, his shoulders sagging with relief. Evelyn stepped back, staring at him. "What on earth was that?" she hissed under her breath. "You can't just pull a stranger into whatever that was." Liam ran a hand through his hair, looking equal parts embarrassed and exhausted. "I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice," she snapped, though her voice softened when she noticed how lost he looked. He turned to her slowly, the weight of something unspoken pressing between them. "Not this time," he said quietly. "If you give me 5 minutes, I'll tell you everything." Evelyn's heart was still racing, her mind a whirl of confusion. But somehow, against all logic, she nodded. Something told her, this was just the beginning. Evelyn followed Liam through the side corridor of the ballroom, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. The music and laughter from the gala faded as they stepped into a quieter lounge lit by soft amber lamps. She crossed her arms, glaring at him. You said you'd explain, she reminded him, voice low but firm. Liam didn't answer right away. He went to the window, staring out at the rain-slick streets below. For a long moment, the only sound was the faint hum of the city outside. When he finally spoke, his tone had lost its earlier polish. It was quieter, almost fragile. That woman, he said, the one with the cane, she's my grandmother. The man with her is my grandfather. Evelyn frowned, uncertain where this was going. All right, and what does that have to do with pretending I'm your wife? He turned to face her, hands shoved into his pockets. They raised me after my parents died. My grandfather built Carter Industries from nothing. He's the reason I had a future at all. But he's traditional, controlling. When I refused the marriage he arranged for me 5 years ago, he cut me off completely. I didn't see them again until tonight. Evelyn's arms dropped to her sides, her irritation softening. And your grandmother, she was caught in the middle, he said with a faint, sad smile. She wrote to me sometimes, letters I never had the courage to answer. A few months ago, I heard she was sick. Terminal. His voice cracked slightly at the word. I came tonight hoping to speak with her. I wanted to make peace. But before I could even think, she saw me, and she looked so happy. So hopeful. He swallowed hard, glancing toward the ballroom doors. She asked the hotel staff if I'd brought my wife. She said she'd been praying to meet her before. He trailed off, running a hand over his face. I couldn't tell her I was still alone. Not when she smiled like that. Evelyn stood there, stunned. The anger she'd been clinging to drained away, replaced by something she couldn't quite name. Pity, admiration, maybe both. So you lied, she said softly. Yes, he admitted, but only because I didn't want her to die disappointed. The honesty in his voice left her speechless. He wasn't the cold, entitled millionaire she'd imagined. He was just a man trying to protect the woman who had loved him most. You didn't have to drag me into it, she murmured, though her tone had gentled. I know, he said, looking at her now with quiet remorse. You were just there. You looked calm, professional. The kind of person she would believe I'd fall for. I didn't have time to think. Evelyn gave a small, incredulous laugh. Calm. You must have been desperate. A ghost of a smile flickered across his face. Desperate doesn't begin to cover it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them thickened with unspoken understanding. Two strangers suddenly tied together by a lie that felt far too personal. Finally, Evelyn sighed. All right, she said. You've explained yourself. Now what? Liam looked toward the ballroom again, his jaw tightening. Now, he said, we finish what we started. For tonight, you stay my wife, just a little longer. Evelyn stared at him, torn between outrage and curiosity. Somewhere deep down, a part of her already knew she was going to say yes. Evelyn didn't know how she ended up back in the ballroom beside Liam Carter, her arm looped through his as if they'd been married for years. The music drifted through the air, a soft waltz played by a string quartet near the grand staircase. Golden light shimmered across the marble floor, and guests swirled around them in elegant gowns and tailored tuxedos. Everything looked perfect, almost cinematic. Everything except the fluttering chaos inside her chest. Liam leaned in slightly, his voice a low murmur near her ear. Just relax. You're doing fine. Fine, she whispered back, forcing a smile for the benefit of a passing photographer. I'm impersonating your wife in front of a room full of billionaires. I'd say that's far from fine. He chuckled softly, the sound surprisingly genuine. You're handling it better than most people would. Most people don't get cornered into fake marriages, she muttered, earning a quiet laugh from him. It was the first time she'd seen him look anything close to human, his usual cool facade replaced by something warmer, gentler. A waiter appeared with champagne, and Liam took 2 glasses, handing one to her. Their fingers brushed briefly, and for some reason, the tiny spark of contact sent a strange pulse through her. She told herself it was just nerves, but her heart didn't quite believe it. Across the room, his grandparents sat at a round table near the stage, watching them with glowing eyes. The grandmother looked radiant, smiling as if this evening had erased years of pain. Every time Liam glanced in her direction, his expression softened, a quiet mix of love and guilt. Evelyn caught herself studying him, wondering what kind of man he really was beneath the fortune and fame. A voice interrupted her thoughts. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, a woman in a sequined dress greeted, her tone full of curiosity. You two are the talk of the night. No one even knew Liam was married. Evelyn's stomach twisted, but Liam handled it effortlessly. He slipped an arm around her waist and smiled. We've kept things private. A small ceremony, just the two of us. The woman gasped delightedly. How romantic. Evelyn found herself smiling, too, not because of the lie, but because of how naturally it flowed from him, how easily he made her part of it. For a moment, it didn't feel like acting. After the woman moved on, Evelyn turned to him. You're really good at this. He looked down at her, eyes thoughtful. So are you. Their gazes lingered a little too long before he turned away, clearing his throat. My grandmother's watching. We should dance. Dance, Evelyn echoed, startled. Oh, no, I don't. But before she could protest, he guided her toward the dance floor. His hand found hers, the other resting lightly at her waist. The world seemed to fade as they began to move, slow, graceful steps in perfect rhythm. She could feel his heartbeat through his suit, steady but strong. You're doing great, he murmured. Evelyn looked up at him, and for the first time that night, she stopped pretending. Something in his eyes, something raw and sincere, melted her defenses. In that moment, surrounded by glittering lights and strangers, smiles, Evelyn forgot the lie they were living. For just a few breaths, she allowed herself to believe it was real. The days after the gala felt strangely hollow. The event had been a success. Glowing reviews, smiling clients, even her boss had congratulated her, but Evelyn couldn't shake the lingering image of Liam's grandmother's gentle smile as she'd said goodnight. Nor could she forget the quiet sadness in Liam's eyes as they'd parted that night. He had thanked her softly, his voice rough with exhaustion, and promised he'd be in touch. Then he was gone. A week later, she received a message from an unknown number. Greater than, can we meet? I owe you an explanation, and a thank you, Liam. Evelyn hesitated before replying, but curiosity and something deeper, something she didn't want to name, drew her to the quiet cafe he'd chosen. It was a small, tucked-away place far from the glass towers of his world. When she arrived, Liam was already there, sitting by the window with a cup of untouched coffee. He looked different, not the polished millionaire from the gala, but a man who had been through something heavy. She slid into the seat across from him. You look terrible, she said gently, trying to hide her concern. He managed a faint smile. You're not wrong. For a moment, neither spoke. The soft hum of the cafe filled the silence until Liam finally said, My grandmother passed away 2 days after the gala. Evelyn's heart sank. Oh, Liam, I'm so sorry. He nodded, eyes fixed on his coffee. The doctors said she went peacefully. She was smiling when she fell asleep. His voice wavered slightly, and he swallowed hard. Before she did, she told my grandfather how happy she was that I'd found someone who truly loved me. She said she could rest knowing I wasn't alone anymore. Evelyn's throat tightened. She hadn't expected her heart to ache this much. She really believed it, she whispered. She did, he said softly. And for that, I'm grateful. You gave her that peace, Evelyn. You gave me something, too. She looked at him, searching his face. You don't owe me anything, Liam. I did what anyone would have done. He shook his head, finally meeting her eyes. No, not anyone. You didn't just help me lie. You helped me give her a goodbye I could live with. There was a silence that stretched between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Outside, rain began to fall, tapping softly against the window. Evelyn's hands wrapped around her cup, warming her cold fingers. So what happens now? She asked quietly. Liam's lips curved into a small, wistful smile. That depends on you. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. I meant every word I said that night, maybe not the marriage part, but the rest. You were calm, strong, kind, everything I didn't realize I needed. Evelyn's pulse quickened. She wanted to look away, but his gaze held her still. Liam, she began, but her voice faltered. He squeezed her hand lightly. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. For a long moment, neither moved. The world outside blurred into streaks of gray and gold. Finally, Evelyn smiled faintly, tears glimmering in her eyes. You know, she said softly, I don't want your money, Liam. Just those 2 minutes again, but real this time. He stared at her, stunned, then laughed quietly, the first real laugh she'd heard from him. He stood, offering his hand. Then let's start there, he said. She took it, her fingers fitting perfectly into his. And as they stepped out into the rain together, it felt like the first honest thing either of them had done in a very long time.